But thank you very much for being here. And it is really great to see everybody. This is going to be a provocative, interesting, fun meeting. Yesterday, Denis and Deborah and Terry and I had a chance to talk it through. We are looking for ideas. Nothing is set in stone. So I hope you really appreciate that when I tell you that we have nothing planned at all. We're looking for ideas. Monty Burnham very much wanted to be here. She joined the meeting yesterday. She is our retiring chairman of the board, but she had a personal issue this morning and just couldn't be here. So she extends her best to all of you. Maureen Shilton may be joining us. Her daughter, Sir Hugh, you will be interested to know this. Her daughter is getting married in England sometime this week, and I suspect that her garden is spectacular. I don't know if you've been over to see it yet, but she is a phenomenal gardener, having been the head of the New York Botanical for so many years. Bob Mackay, he has a new book out called The Golden Age of Newport Yachting, Between the Wars. And he is going to be speaking in Newport in a few months, so we're looking forward to that. Deborah Royce has a new book out called Ruby Falls, and she is supposed to be joining us, so maybe she can talk about it a little bit later. Hermes has done some incredible work, not just as an architect, but he has collected thousands of books to send to Cuba for Cuban architectural students to use. And he has created a library that's really impressive. Brooks and Margaret have a lot to be proud of. They have opened up a brand new music gallery at Lobkowitz Palace. Terry was able to join the ribbon cutting ceremony. I couldn't be there, but he says that the rooms are really phenomenal. And for those of you who didn't have the chance, Brooks's son and grandson, Margaret's brother and nephew, gave a lecture of Lobkowitz Palace about 2 months ago. It was incredibly well attended, more than 500 people, and they just did a phenomenal job. And let's see, Johan too did a fantastic job with his tour of the Zorn Museum. We got a lot of feedback from both the Lobkowitz Palace tour and also from the Zorn Museum tour. And then finally, Denis, I'm sure you are responsible for the fact that the Louvre now has its first woman director after 228 years. And I know you influenced Macron, right?
No, it is not true, of course, but I know that family, and I don't know her personally. I know her parents, and I was very proud for them that she got that job. Yes, that's a good point, Trudy.
So I'm going to turn it over to you and Deborah now.
Wonderful. Well, good morning, everyone. It's wonderful to see so many of you today. Unfortunately, we're not in person, but let's hope in the very near future we will be together. So on behalf of Denis and I'd like to welcome you to the International Council meeting. I did want to also thank Monty for her involvement with the Preservation, with the Preservation Society. She's always had a steady presence at all of our council meetings and our trips, and she certainly will be missed. Unfortunately, she can't be with us, but I'm sure it won't be too difficult to convince her in the near future to join us on one of our trips. She's really accomplished quite a bit during her tenure. And I'd also at this moment like to welcome William Lucy III, who is now going to be the incoming Preservation Society's board chair. Those of you who don't know Bill, I'd just like to give you a little overview. Bill is the Vice President of Banking, Commercial Banking for Bank Rhode Island. Formerly, he was the publisher of the Newport Daily News, Newport Life Magazine, and The Independent. He joined the board of the Preservation Society in 2010 and currently serves as the treasurer. and he will be elected officially on June 10th at the annual meeting. He's also a trustee at Salve Regina University, is on the board of the Newport Film, and is governor of the Newport Hospital. Bill's graduated from the University of Rhode Island with a Bachelor's of Science in Business Management and earned an MS in Information Systems Science from Salve Regina University. And he resides in Middletown, Rhode Island with his wife, Catherine. So let's welcome Bill. I believe he's here with us today.
Thank you, Deborah, so much.
You're welcome.
And I'm really looking forward to taking over and trying to fill Monty's shoes, which will be very difficult. I think the best thing to know about me is I suppose my strongest attribute in this case would be I'm pretty good in a crisis. So I think that's pretty much why they've asked me to come in and do what I can from my financial background and experience to try to pull not only the mansions and Newport Preservation Society out of this pandemic situation that we're in, but the entire community really of Newport is really relying on this organization in a big way to help lead it out of this pandemic. So really looking forward to working with everyone and really looking forward to learning more than anything else, because this is not my area of expertise, but it is yours. So really looking forward to meeting you all and enjoying just hearing some of your great ideas.
Great. Well, welcome. We're happy to have you.
Thanks.
Okay. So Trudy.
Well, we are going to break up. Terry, I think we should do it for 10 minutes. Okay? We're going to break into small groups so you can just talk to each other, and then we will get started with the video about the third floor of the breakers, but you might want to catch up with each other.
Okay, great.
So we will go on to breakout groups. Oh, I'm here. Hi, Pauline.
Trudy, the mechanics, are A++++. I have never attended a Zoom so beautifully coordinated, and we've just begun.
Oh,
Hi,
good.
Cece.
Well, I want to keep this moving on. We're disappointed because Alvaro is not on yet, nor is Johan. So I think Terry is going to take a run out and see if he can call them. And Henrietta is missing too, and she was going to be with us, and she would be valuable to this discussion. But I want to introduce Leslie Jones. Leslie is the Chief Curator and Museum Affairs Director for the Preservation Society, and she's been here for just about a little bit over 2 years. And she has been doing some really important research for us on the breakers and on many other aspects of the organization. What we are charged with doing today is to get some ideas from you. We own the breakers, as you know. We have owned the breakers since the early 1970s. In the 1940s, the Vanderbilt family very kindly provided to the Preservation Society the opportunity for $1 a year to open up the house to visitors to visit the first floor. And that turned out to be a very popular, attendance in that first year was phenomenal. And from 1948 until we acquired the building in the early 1970s at market value, which at the time was $366,000, if you can believe it, we continued to run the house as a house museum. And the agreement with the family was that Countess Sapari, who lived on the third floor of the breakers, could continue to live there until her death, which was in the late 1990s. Her 2 children continued to stay in the house. They're very much a part of the Newport fabric, Gladys and Paul Sapari, until 2 years ago. Several years ago, we did an engineering and electrical review of the house, having noticed some water in the house that did not seem normal. The engineering and electrical review of the house concluded that the one, and nothing that would be surprising to you, the 130-year-old pipes were not in great shape. It was not a matter of if they would burst, it was a matter of when. And the electrical system needed to be upgraded just to a great degree. And it was concluded by the board at the time that really the space should not be inhabited. We turned the water off, we turned the electricity off. And so now we are confronted with having 12,500 square feet of an apartment, which you are going to see in a minute. And Leslie will tell you a little bit about it as we're going along. 29 servants' rooms and an attic. You won't see the attic. And the question is, what should we be doing with this space? What can we be doing? What creative ideas are there available to us? It is beautiful space. It has not been restored, which I think makes it interesting in many different ways, but some would say it needs to be. What we've done in the last few years is we have tightened up the building. We have added brand new windows so that there are no leaks into the house. We've done some cleanup of the third floor in general, and we have done research. Leslie has done a number of oral interviews with family members that include Peter Eltz. So Peter, at some point, I'm sure you're going to weigh in. With Peter Eltz's aunt, Gladys Thomas, with other members of the family, we're trying to understand the third floor. She has a fellow who has been doing important research on that space because we don't know very much about it. So we thought we would take you on a tour of this space and get your reactions. And hello, Johan, it's good to see you here. Are you ready, Anthony, this is going to take about 11 minutes, I think. And then we'll go into breakout groups and I will circulate the questions that you can begin to think about. And then we'll come back from the breakout group with your thoughts and ideas. We're not making any decisions today, by the way, that we're just brainstorming. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So Anthony.
You have sound on?
Can you all see this?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. There is no sound. Leslie and I we're going to look overboard.
There'll be times when
500
you sound.
square feet of space on the third floor of the breakers to determine what we might do with this space in the future. And we look forward to your ideas and recommendations. And right now we are walking down a very long hall to the main living room of the third floor. And now it's Leslie who's in charge.
So we'll just be seeing a few of the 16 rooms. That does not include the closets that are on the third floor that are the primary apartment spaces.
By the way, that hallway is much longer than what you saw. This is.
I haven't seen the final edited version of this, so I may talk over myself, but we'll see if the audio kicks in.
Right now, we are in the living room, as it was known to the Zipari and Sashani families. It was originally designed, we believe, for Richard Morris Hunt's plan as a bedroom, but it was used commonly for recreation. What we have here are watercolors from the Metropolitan Museum of Art that were the original design intent of Ogden Codman, who was the interior designer selected by the Vanderbilts for both the second and third floors. And what this watercolor shows is, as a preliminary design, it truly is how these rooms ended up turning about, which is why we believe these to be the most intact Ogden Codman rooms still in existence. What we see here, of course, is the design for the carved overmantel piece, the fireplace, and the fireplace surround as designed. Further, you can see these two bookshelves that were intended for this space still exist and are intact, but they are now on this side of the room.
And if anybody has any questions, please feel free. That's the view from, that's Cliff Walk out there in the Atlantic. It's a really lovely spot. Some of you have seen this space. I know that, well, certainly Peter has. I know that Bonnie Burnham has. I know that Claudio and Deborah have been there.
I've been there.
I've been there too, Trudy.
Oh, yes, Carol, yes. Thank you. Yeah, Richard Wilson has.
We're rolling through these rooms. We're not spending a lot of time. Just give a sense of it. This is a good shot of the front here.
This is looking out to the front gate of the property. And as you know, our job was to hide that welcome center, which we did pretty well, I think.
And this is where Craig talks.
This is the family dining room.
We are in the room that was used as the dining room by both the Sashani and the Sapari family. And this is the room in which we determined that there were some plumbing problems that had to be resolved, because when we came into this room, much of this fabric on the walls was wet. And in fact, when the engineers did the report that they did, it took them more than a year. We found that those 130-plus-year-old pipes were not in good shape, and it was a question of not if there would be a leak. The question was when there will be a leak. Many of the pipes run above the Great Hall, the murals on the ceiling, and so we were really concerned about the future of the house itself if the plumbing couldn't be repaired. Very difficult plumbing repair job, so we had to turn the water off.
Just for a moment or two, we're going to step out of the apartment into the what would have been the staff facilities here on the third, what we call the 3.5 floor. We're just going to take a peek in a couple of these staff rooms, of which I believe there are 33 rooms. The hallway extends upstairs with staff rooms, but we're only going to look at a few here on the first level of the staff quarters. Before we look into some of the staff rooms, this would have been the kitchen used at a later time with modern refrigerator. There was a modern stove and microwave and all those kind of things in this space.
And originally, according to the floor plans in our research, this would have been the head housekeeper's bedroom.
Now we're going to step down the hallway and take a look into a few of the staff quarters. And if you go down the hall, you pan down, you can see down to the second floor where visitors would be touring the house itself.
I'm trying to figure that one out, right? They went for a reception.
There's a tourist now.
No. Like a special student.
We'll step into the staff room here. Event staff room. We'll just take a look at a few of these. They're all fairly the same. Some are larger than others. Some have more occupants than others.
I'd also note that a lot of the furniture you're seeing in these spaces was a part of the sale of the house to the Preservation Society, as well as a series of very generous and frequent donations of objects back to the Preservation Society, original objects from the house.
We're going to take a long tour, but the corridor extends all the way down. And there's about another 15 or 18 rooms on this floor. And then if you imagine going up a set of steps behind us and another whole level, well, the hallway and also rooms for staff quarters. And see, here's remnants of one of the call bell systems here. You can see the wiring and you can see the bell above with a little clapper. And each of these little tags, which you can't actually read, but I can, say room number 10, room number 7. And that would give the indicator where a member of the family or a guest requested to have someone come to attend to them.
This would be the main entrance way to the third floor apartment in general.
To the landing level that's at the third floor, and we're going to be looking at a few of the rooms here that we're not, again, quite sure what the original intent was. We've been working with architectural historians and colleagues of ours at other institutions to try and deduce what the potential layout means. And by that, there are 3 bedrooms up here. They're all interconnected. There are no dressing rooms, but there is 1 bathroom that one has to go through an entire bedroom to reach. Further, there's also a working linen closet on this level. So one of our good friends, Dr. Richard Guy Wilson at UVA, has suggested recently that perhaps these were decided as staff rooms, but of a higher level staff, perhaps tutors for the boys or companions in some sort of capacity. So these are just clues and indicators we're still rifling through to come up with justifications for what these rooms actually were intended to be.
Leslie, the Vanderbilt lore is that it was for the brothers. The third floor was for the brothers. What do you think about that?
I think that's 100% certain. From what we can tell, thanks to the surviving drawings and other elements we can speak about, there were certainly 3 bedrooms designed specifically for Reginald, for Neely, and for Alfred. The other rooms potentially could have been for guest bedrooms, although, as I'm sure many of you are aware, during the Gilded Age, there weren't expansive guest rooms built in these houses because most of their acquaintances and friends had their own spaces to occupy, and their own houses or renting properties. So no, we can be certain that there were at least 3 bedrooms designed for the 3 surviving sons.
I assume the male and the female servants were separated. Do we know which one was on which floor or how they were separated?
Yes, Holly Collins has done a significant research on the service spaces, and what she came up with was on the level that Terry had just shown us through, the first of the 3rd levels. I don't know, do we want to pause this video quickly?
Intact Ogden Codman design.
Just so I can address that question. So on that 3rd level that Terry was showing us, there are essentially, there's 1 corridor, but it's divided between a door that can be locked. So we're quite certain that on that 1st level, there was a women's space that was the front area, and then a male space that was the back area. The 2nd level, as a part of the service area, could have been for additional staff as needed, but also for guest staff that would be joining. But as far as we can tell for the season, that 1 section was completely occupied by both men and women.
One other question. So the higher level staff were living above the brothers?
Well, that's what we're not quite certain. Dr. Wilson and I had a conversation a few weeks ago, which was incredibly helpful, and he has suggested that he's seeing this in other sites as well. I could eventually share a floor plan with you all when this video concludes, but there is something very distinct about these 3 bedrooms. We just can't quite determine if they were staff, because it does seem that the staff quarters we've been going through are for working staff, working the house specifically. So I hope that there are pieces of evidence that suggest some of these theories to be correct or disprove them. We just haven't come across them yet.
With the collections management that the Sapari family has taken on over many years. This room is a perfect example of that. This is a cedar-lined textile closet. It has been used, I'm sure, for a variety of purposes, both to store out-of-season clothing, but they chose to use it as an exceptional way to store all of the textiles that they removed prematurely from a lot of these rooms to save them. They also have had an incredible system of labeling things, so we're aware of what pieces go to what rooms, which is helpful, particularly as we pointed out in some spaces that the color has changed through fading and exposure to the elements. So one of the things I want to point out here, original Fortuny label for one of the pieces. I'm not sure which room this is in particular, but it is a green piece that was used in one of the spaces. Also, all of these are particularly labeled with their handwriting as things have changed over the years. But this space contains a lot of work for us to take on, not only in rehousing these textiles for safe and conservation-minded storage, but also to examine and study them and understand more about Codman and more about the Vanderbilt design choices. So again, this type of exceptional collection is all in part due to the Sapari family's acts of saving and preserving.
There's a question from Pauline, but Pauline, you're on mute.
Oh, she's on mute again.
Oh,
Pauline, I'm sorry, you're on mute.
you did unmute. There you are.
Yes, okay, I think I am now.
Yes.
One use of that space and the staff, which I've always thought was very interesting, is that the ladies' clothing and their dresses were all hung in closets upstairs, and that the chambermaid would bring down the dress at the time. And because as you know, there are no closets in the second floor level. And I think this whole sort of social, insight is rather interesting. Have you discovered some of these closets?
Well, there are closets on the second floor, but there are also closets on the third floor. In terms of the height of the closets, they're both approximately the same to facilitate stacking dresses of great length and other pieces of clothing. But there are closets that are off of Gertrude's bedroom, Mrs. Vanderbilt's bedroom, and Gladys's bedroom. If I could, Anthony, would you mind allowing me to screen share so I can just pull the floor plan up on the screen for everyone to see?
Armin and Peter Eltz, if you have anything to add in as we're walking and talking along, please do. Armin wrote the book about the Vanderbilt family, and Peter, of course, knows the house because he's a Vanderbilt. So,
I tried to say something before, but I think that my microphone wasn't working. Is it on now?
we can hear you. Yes, we can hear you.
You can hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, the of those three rooms, one on the left is the one that I stayed in when I first visited my grandmother in 1954. And that's the only room that had a bathroom. We went down a few steps, and from that bathroom, I think this is, Leslie, we've spoken about this, I think. From that bathroom, it was possible to jump out the window onto the terrace because it wasn't particularly high. From the bedrooms, it was a little bit too high to jump down. And we spent a lot of time on that big terrace. It was wonderful, bicycling around the terrace. And my grandmother used to arrange the furniture to make sort of a steeplechase course for us as we biked around. A lot of fun. And actually, going down the hallway, Judy, there was going down to the hallway to the living room. On that left-hand wall was a picture in a huge, very heavy Victorian frame, which is now here with me in Salzburg, and I'm looking at it now in a very small frame, and it looks much nicer than it used to there.
It was a very dark hallway.
Yeah.
Just to orient everyone, also on the left we have the Matterport pictorial view of the floor plan, and on the right is the drawings. This is just of the apartment itself, so over to the left of each of these would have been the staff spaces, but this shows you the rooms that we just quickly breezed through that are part of the apartment. So
Leslie, just show them. Where did we start? And just do a quick run through.
Yes, so we came up the stairs here and then down this hallway.
That's the long hallway. It didn't look long, but it really is.
Came through this shared bathroom between the living room and we believe Reginald's room. Then there are a couple pieces were clipped out of this. We proceeded through a shared dressing room and into the next bedroom, Alfred's bedroom, then through another shared bathroom to Neely's bedroom, Cornelius III. There's then a fellow bathroom that's attached here that we believe was probably a guest bedroom, judging by the amount of design and detail that's incorporated into it. It's also distinctly different than the other 3 bedrooms in terms of the ornament that's been applied, also much lighter. So we believe this bathroom, of course, corresponds with this bedroom, much like it does on the floor below it. And then this is the living room area where Trudy was standing and showed the water damage on this wall. And then we maneuvered through here and before exiting out into the staff quarters. These are those 3 bedrooms we were discussing and their potential use. And here is that cedar closet.
Where's the outdoor terrace?
It is right out here.
Yeah.
This is the access point right here, this door, and then this is the terrace.
So room number 11 is where Peter Eltz would have spent his time, and he could get out to the terrace by going through the bathroom window.
Yeah, that's exactly that's where the whatever the pointer is, and you're on the terrace now.
Right.
Yeah, that's the terrace.
And it is a glorious terrace, believe me.
I'd also like to point out that the numbering system that we have on the screen here are the actual numbers as they exist on the doors. If looking at Richard Morris Hunt's surviving plans that were not exactly as built, they have different numbering systems. And we think that's because there may have been a bedroom that was removed from the eventual floor plan. I want to give a lot of credit here too to Pauline for her work on Ogden Codman Jr. Her book has been a great and tremendous guide for us as we try and accumulate information and find more and more about the relationship between Cornelius Vanderbilt and Ogden Codman. So I'll just do quickly here too, just so you can see some of the other things that we've been working on here. This also shows here the surviving age Davenport drawings that Codman had commissioned for the actual bedding and furniture for all of these spaces. Many of them exist, not all of them, but they are in the collection of Historic New England. We also have great architectural drawings from Codman's papers that are at the Avery Library at Columbia. And then, of course, here again, these are the watercolors that are at the Metropolitan Museum of Art's Prints and Drawings department that show the interiors as Codman had designed and as they exist. So this great detail put into this mirror here for one of the bathrooms, and of course, this drawing shows the as constructed, both in the furniture as well as the furnishings. So this is just phase 1 of this tremendous research effort, is to try and locate original primary resources as well as the oral histories that the family members have been so generous to participate in.
So any other questions? Richard Guy Wilson, do you know the building a bit? Do you have anything you want to add here?
Well, I think that you do have really a tremendous opportunity here with the space up there, and to tell, well, we can go into all of this stuff, but I mean, it is wonderfully, it's so intact, certain parts of it and so forth, and that's really, I think, also very important. So, yeah, but it tells another story, and
right.
I think that's important.
May I ask a question, Judy?
Yes.
You mentioned the pipes and the electricity and so on. Has that all been redone throughout the house?
No, the water is only on the first floor now.
Right. So what about, you said about the electrics not being very good. Have they been renewed or?
We've done no work on the electrical. We've examined the work, the electrical on the first and second floors, which are where the tours are taking place. But we have done nothing on the third floor. Right. And you should realize that and this is a dilemma for us, I think, in order to get to the pipes, you really have to jackhammer through cement. It would be a phenomenally difficult job to try to replace new pipes with the old ones, which is one of the dilemmas and conundrums we're faced with. And so the only alternative was just to stop the water so that we didn't get any leak. Does that answer your question, Sir Hugh?
Yes, it does, because it limits the amount of use you can allow in those upper rooms then.
We have had the fire code people look at the third floor, and they have said that small tours could be held. Not thousands of people at a time, but small tours, group-led tours. So there is an opportunity for showing the place, but I think what we're going to do as we go into breakout sessions is to, let me just tell you, when you combine the apartment itself and the servants' quarters and the attic, you're talking about 56,000 square feet of space. It's, you know, beyond, it's many of our houses combined together. And as you can see, these rooms, when people think about the third floor of the breakers, they think about, you know, a tiny little space. This is not a tiny space. These are huge rooms and very elegant rooms. The carving of the wood and the paneling is phenomenal. So here we are, still pulling together our research and looking for thoughts. You're the first audience we've tried this out on, by the way. You're our guinea pigs. There is no right or wrong answer. We're going to break up into breakout groups, and I put on the chat some of the questions that you might want to consider talking about. Should we just leave it as is, or should we do some restoration?
Trudy,
Yep.
Trudy, this is Wint. I just want to ask a question for all of us on physical access, ADA, and that sort of thing. Is there an elevator? Is there a trunk lift that could become an elevator to these levels?
There is an elevator. It is a very small, it is the original elevator, the Otis elevator put into the house in 1895. There is not a trunk lift. So if you are going to move furniture or other things in and out, you'd have to do it by hand, up and down steps.
Trudy, I think there is a dumbwaiter, isn't there?
Not to the third floor.
Not to the third floor though, Peter. Down lower in the building, yes.
There's no third floor dumbwaiter?
No.
No? Okay.
Another question, what percentage of the original furniture does the Preservation Society own?
It's a very good question. We don't have a complete inventory to compare to as to what was originally put in. We do have the drawings from Codman, but from the drawings, I'd say we have 98, 99% of the original furnishings. But by comparison, we don't have that inventory to suggest the exact pieces that were put in those spaces when it was considered finished.
Do you have photographs before the family moved out?
Not in our collection, no. I think there may have been some documentary photographs taken for personal purposes by others, but we don't have anything in our collection.
Leslie,
Sorry, go ahead.
Jen, you had a question.
No. Should I go?
Yes.
Was the question about the original furniture, was that in reference to the third floor or to the whole building?
Third floor.
Okay, because yeah, I mean, I don't know of any furniture that was taken out of the third floor by family members.
I've stayed on the third floor, and I was just looking at photographs, personal photographs I took. It's a different look today. There I mean, Trudy, you could probably speak to that. There seems to be a lot of furniture that was removed. Am I right?
Well, when Gladys and Paul were living on the third floor, our agreement was that they did have objects that belonged to them. And thank goodness, because our inventory matched up perfectly with theirs. So we tagged every single piece of furniture on the third floor and then divided it up, and everything that was theirs, they took. Everything that had been left to us in 1972 stayed with us. So there was not one single dispute over anything. It was just phenomenal. And it just shows you how important it is to have good records. So yes, when you went up to the third floor CC 2 years ago, it was far more furnished. And you know this, Peter, and Armin, I think you too. It was far more furnished because they did have things there. But those things belonged to them, not to us.
There's a lot of archival material up there, a lot of papers.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. What happened to all those archives?
They took them, and my understanding is, and maybe Peter knows a little bit more, I think Gladys has hired somebody who is helping her go through her family records. And, you know, of course, we would love to see those records too, but right now that's within the family, and they're all looking through that material.
Trudy, could I just say, it's Maury Heckscher. It's been many years since I was on the third floor, but I remember first going there and being overwhelmed by how different it was from the rest of the house, and what a huge relief to get there. And exquisite quarter saw and white oak with the patina of never having been touched. And my personal feeling is there is a quality of age there that it's different maybe with the gilded areas down below, but it has the restoration should be, it seems to me, very light. A light touch is in order. The effect was of the masculine quarters of the house. It was very definitely a man's place. It was all unpainted oak. And I remember beautifully framed architectural drawings and prints on the walls. It was like a private club. And there was a wonderful coherence to it, which you don't get looking at your pictures today. It looks very empty. But the quality of the place, the way it was set up for the three sons, it's spectacular. And I applaud you for spending time doing research and trying to figure out how the building was used. And this was an important part of it. And if you can find a way to show it to some of the public, what a great thing that is. So this is a great conversation we're having. The fact is, the Preservation Society has all the material from these rooms that it owns, but there's a great deal more that might be worth discussing, having it come back there, because the totality was really quite special at the time. And so onward with this.
Can I add something to that? I think you've hit on a subject that I think is very important. The number of people who actually stayed there is getting smaller and smaller, and we're down to 4 people. 2 died last year. I don't expect to die too soon, but there are 4 of us left who have lived there. With our grandmother. In this case, we're all first cousins. And so, please pick our brains, because it's very easy for stories and rumors and things to sort of sneak in that don't necessarily reflect the truth. And so, please feel free at any time to pick our brains. I know that we've had conversations. I'm not very good at telling stories, but I do need a catalyst. When I have a catalyst, then I can remember things. But just to go sort of blabbering on, I'm not much good at. But for instance, Gladys Thomas is quite a number of years older than I am and has that many more years of memory and experiences there in the house. And so please pick our brains.
Thank you.
Could I just say one more word? And that is, we miss Gene Roberts, and let's remember him today.
Yes.
Well, yes. Yeah, we absolutely.
Many of you have been on many of the trips we've had before, and you probably would remember that you'd be in a wonderful conversation, and there would be Terry standing at the door, not saying a word, and people would say, "It's time we move to the next item on the agenda." And so imagine me standing in the doorway now. And so we're going to go ahead, and if you don't mind, we'll go into our breakout groups.
And we have 3 chairs.
Good to see.
Hello.
Yes, sir. It's been a long time since we've seen you.
Yes. Well, I understand that you still are considering the possibility of holding the meeting in Spain next spring, or next September. I don't know when.
Yes, sir. And we're going to talk just for briefly about the breakers, and then we're going to have that conversation about next year's meeting, possibly in Madrid. Yeah. But we're going to talk just for a few minutes first about the breakers' 3rd floor, which the groups have been talking about for the last 30 minutes or so. But we're definitely going to talk about Madrid in a few minutes.
Okay.
Go ahead, unmute everybody.
Stephen, do you want to start? What happened in your group, Stephen? Where is he?
He might be muted.
Has Stephen Lash disappeared?
He's legged it.
He's just muted. He's here. He's here.
I was uncharacteristically muted. Thank you. Anyway, we opened our conversation with some interesting comments from Maury Heckscher about and others about the degree of restoration that should go into the space. And Maury's particular point of view was that this is so authentic and so real, and has the wonderful patina of age on it that we don't want to overdo the job. And that was not, I mean, the universal point of view, but it's an interesting point of view, and it's something that we should discuss. The other, another subject which was discussed is exhibits and timing, because does it make sense to do a series of exhibits, mini exhibits, if you will, of the space as is, maybe showing the textiles, showing the drawings either on the 3rd floor of the breakers or elsewhere. I think it's a huge opportunity here. We discussed the possibility of sharing that opportunity in a kind of joint venture with existing institutions. The fact that there are these renderings at the Metropolitan Museum provides a natural platform to even have a discussion with the Metropolitan Museum. and perhaps even extend it to something like the Costume Institute as a joint effort. There was a very interesting suggestion made of making this some kind of study center where the subject of architectural restoration and preservation could be addressed in a very serious way, and maybe in conjunction with an existing institution. It crossed my mind listening to that. Maybe it's an existing institution in Newport or an existing institution in the state of Rhode Island, or a preservation program. The members of the committee are distinguished and and very experienced, and I'd welcome their adding in anything I've left off. Judy, what did I leave out?
I think, Denis, I think he did a very good job, don't you?
Excellent, yeah, and is in a very good position to comment on the scale of what we're contemplating.
I think we will move on to Teresa.
Unmute.
You're on mute, Teresa.
I was just saying thank you, and that knowing that Denis appreciates brevity, many of the suggestions that our group discussed were mentioned by Stephen, but we took the assignment quite seriously and started with a vote on whether to restore or to leave. And thanks to CC, the majority, almost 100%, decided to split. In other words, restoration should be very judicious. There's a tremendous story to tell. So Richard, Maury, Bob, CC, Leslie, Brooke, Margaret, Carol, and Bill all agreed that Maury embraced what the space was about, the importance of history, the importance of the family, weaving this, but also the magnitude of how much space we're talking about. And as Leslie said, the emphasis has to be to study, study, study. Actually, we were cut short. We were doing a one-word summary. So I would invite every one of our team to use our final moments to give their one-word summary on what we discussed. Maury, you were the best, please.
You're on.
Oh, sorry. I think the bottom line is that the third floor and the servants wing, if you will, of the Breakers is worthy of full study and offers huge opportunities. So Leslie's job is to dig as deeply as she can, and then we can talk further about the possible uses of it.
Margaret, Brooke, any one word?
Education. Those rooms are calling. There are going to be so many extra rooms. One word, sorry, education. Scholars. Sorry, interns.
Richard?
That the house is continued. The house is continued in use for so many years that must be respected and tell that story. At the same time, as noted about the servants. Just one little footnote is, of course, you do have the servants tours already over at the Elms. And so this would make a very interesting type of comparison here of what is the difference and so forth in the treatment.
Perfect. Bob?
Mute, you're on mute.
I think we have an exhibit already because we have options, and I would bring the public in early and take a great deal of time in reaching the final a solution, but invite them to explore with us the various avenues that can be taken.
Thank you. Cece.
Bob, that was a late entry into the poll, and I'm blown away. I really like that, and it could be in a small way an income generator. I really like that, and it can be a transitional restoration redo of the third floor, but bring them in right away. Love it.
Carol.
Pretty much fleshing out and furthering the narrative of the breakers. I think there's a lot more to be told.
Perfect. And Bill?
Multiplicity.
I love one word. And lastly, the best, Leslie.
Not to repeat myself, but study.
Thank you. You now have 100% representation from our group, and we thank everyone.
Thank you, Teresa. Armin. Where are you, Armin?
Mute.
I'm now off mute.
Oh, good.
One of the lucky things of being last is that a lot that has been discussed, which is what we discussed, but many people had things to add, and specifically Hermes began our conversation by saying how interested he was in Ogden Codman and how this floor really should focus, I think, a lot on Ogden Codman himself. That the idea that wasn't mentioned of having an exhibition with the Met with all those wonderful drawings and things, but that is a link that really could be very interesting in presenting the third floor. We spoke of the use of the rooms, and Sir Hugh brought up Hampton Court and said that, there were theme rooms there that he wasn't sure that they would work at the Breakers, but it would be an idea to have different themes for different rooms. Claudio spoke of doing a video of the space and somehow making that available to the public. And he also brought up the point, which is a very good one, which is a pretty obvious one, that the electric system clearly has to be upgraded. That is a top priority, while the plumbing really is of less importance. Peter Else suggested an exhibition, which was a very interesting idea, of the art collection of William Henry Vanderbilt, who was Cornelius's father, who had a very important collection of, as Peter called it, contemporary art, which was contemporary art, of course, of the 1870s and 1880s, and that he really not only influenced other members of the Vanderbilt family, but also really collectors in general of that period. He had a famous gallery in his house in New York City, which was open to the public, and he was very influential. And Peter thought of putting together photographic reproductions of some of his paintings and creating an exhibition there. And Sir Hugh, in conclusion, both he and I mentioned the importance of a behind-the-scenes tour and a presence at the Breakers, that people are really very interested in the downstairs, as we know from the Elms tour, and that we should really do something on the third floor to show how this great house was run, the responsibilities of the servants, etc. And so that was really basically, I'd love it if anybody in our group would like to mention anything further. Please, I give the floor to you now. I guess not.
Well, Armin, could I say a word?
Yes.
Or really ask a question? I come so much at this from the English country house tradition. And here we have an American architect trained in Paris, building a Genoese castle palace in America. And to what extent does the organization of the Breakers come from the English tradition I know of, or from a European background that I don't know much about. I think of Robert Carr, the gentleman's house, as the classic study of every part of a great house having a purpose. The public rooms, the private quarters, the servants' wing for women, the servants' wing for men, everything determined that way. But the question I'm asking, because I don't know the answer, is where was Hunt coming from in all of this? Presumably it's French. I don't know, but how does the makeup, the workings of the breakers, what are its origins, and how does it compare to the English houses that most of us know quite well?
Leslie, I think you would agree, you interrupt me, but I think the intent when the Vanderbilts built it with the help, and Richard Guy Wilson, please add, with the help of Richard Morris Hunt, was absolutely to create a European extravaganza. This was not an English country house.
I think that's correct. And so much of that also has to do with the influence and collaboration with Jules Allard, who was a true advisor to Hunt on the interior design as well as the layout, more so than just the aesthetics.
Well, if I can just add, this is Richard, that I mean, it is very Hunt, yes, but he did travel in England. He had been around, he'd been looking and peering at all of that. And so I think that what was created was something that was, unique, or what Newport has is a unique creation there of those Brits, but then the continent.
Mm-hmm.
It would be very interesting to compare a great French country house to an English country house to an American country house. And of course, the ones in England and France, I may be wrong here, but we're really talking about something unique in Newport in that it's in a resort. It's not Chatsworth, it's not Blenheim, it's not, it's not a country house at all. It's a resort house and the whole way of life. And I don't know how the lifestyle in that house was probably very different from a English country house where you went to shoot, for example. So I think that, it would be very interesting to do something like that on the third floor. Maybe it would be a fun exhibition to compare these great country houses from one country to another.
I think that's a very good idea, particularly in understanding the strict routine that Newport society followed during the day within the season. The visits to the beach, the lunch set on time, the coach and carriage rides up and down Bellevue and Oak Point. So there's all of that was certainly built into the way the house functioned, so that they could keep with the traditional routine of society.
Resort agenda.
Yes.
Can I just suggest that when you're looking at this idea of comparing the breakers with other houses in England and on the continent, that you certainly should look at the way Osborne House functioned, because that was a holiday seaside house specifically built by Queen Victoria and Prince Albert. And the way that's organized, I think, would make a very interesting comparison with the way the breakers is organized.
Very good advice. Can I just throw in, I think many of you know that Lord Julian Fellowes is writing a TV series called The Gilded Age. Lord Julian Fellowes having been the author of Downton Abbey. And he has spent a lot of time here in Newport filming. He is the producer of this series. It's going to go for 6 seasons. He loves, loves, loves Newport. Let's hope he captures the Gilded Age well. We don't know. He won't talk about the story much at all. But there's some big time actors and actresses. But one of the things that he did observe was that, in England, houses as grand as the Breakers and the Elms are surrounded by thousands of, Sir Hugh, you know this, thousands of miles of, thousands of acres of countryside. and that he doesn't know of a city anywhere in which there's one massive, huge house after another, marching down Bellevue Avenue, that is truly unique and special and different. And so your idea, Maury, is it a country house or not? It's kind of it doesn't really fit in. We don't fit into any mold that is easily explicable.
I think that's absolutely right, Trudy. Completely.
I see Terry standing in the doorway again. And
Is it time for us to break up, Terry?
yes.
It's time for Denis and Deborah to lead the discussion about our next gathering. But by the way, this has been phenomenal. You are smart, incredible people. Thank you. We've got more ideas than we know what to do with, but I really appreciate it. And again, you're the first people we've talked to. We haven't even had the. So this is really a useful discussion to hear.
One thing, truly, that I'm not sure came out of the discussion is of all the commentary, is the level of restoration that should be done. I don't think we can show the house. Peter, I agree with Peter there. We can show the house as it is today. Even for small tours. It's not respectful to the family. It's not respectful to what you want to all do there. So there has to be a study. You need to start, the restoration. There are a lot of fabric, a lot of fabric on the walls. That would be probably a place to start to trying to get a number or and timing on now to do that, because I think that from a budget standpoint, probably will have to drive a lot of the other decision. Electric needs to be done just for practical purpose, but if you want to make it anything of the thing with this house, it needs to be restored to a level, a minimum level, and there might not be drapery, fabric, and painting, and that stuff needs to be looked at, at the cost of doing that and the timing that can be done. Because anything else we discuss, I don't think it's pretty practical unless we're willing to do it. Just my opinion, and I know it's not just my opinion.
Thoughts, anyone?
Trudy?
Yes.
Now that you have opened the box of ideas, there will be, you have to do something. You just can't leave it the way it is for months or years. It creates an obligation, first of all. The second, I think that we all agree on the fact that you are not going to organize a permanent exhibition of these rooms and apartments. I think that what should be done in the months or years to come is a place where you have exhibitions, education. So I mean, it comes from all the speeches that I've heard. Is that I think it's a very good tool for education, and so now what you will have to do is to make a programmation of what you are going to do with this. But thank you very much for this agitation of ideas within the group, and I think that's a good stimulation. So thank you very much for organizing this.
We have the International Council made up of good preservationists like you to have good discussions like these. So thank you. So Denis, do you want to get the discussion going about our next meeting, Spain, Newport? Constanza and is on the line along with Johan and also Alvaro. And you know that they did a lot of work getting us ready for a trip in October, which could not be had or cannot be had. So do you want to get started, Denis and Deborah?
Okay, I would like to say, first of all, hello to Alvaro. Bonjour. And
Bonjour.
I want to mention that after all, if I joined this international council, it was on the advice and suggestion of Alvaro. So merci beaucoup. Thank you, Alvaro. Second, yes, we had all expected that we would go to Spain, and because of the coronavirus, it has been postponed. But I think it is still, and that we have to discuss, it is still a goal that we have. And it happens that it's too short. We cannot do it this fall, coming fall. At least I think that everybody will agree on this, which means that we have to wait one more year, the fall of 2022. So first question, do we all agree on this? And second point is there's a long time to wait until October 2022. And so I was wondering if there was something that we could do before the fall of 2022, if we could do something in the spring. And myself, first of all, I'm very happy that we had this opportunity to meet through the Zoom procedure. But I would dream that we could meet in Newport next spring, April or May. I would be very ready to, if this can be organized, and if we have enough people among us who are ready to do it, I suggest that we try to organize a meeting in Newport next spring. So next year would be April or May in Newport and October in Madrid. So what do you think of that?
This is my first experience with this modern system of communication, so I will show my inexperience. The first thing I want to say is, Denis, it is very, very important and nice to see you. I don't know if I joined the Newport International Council because of you, or you joined it because of me. But I know that we worked together in many occasions, and it is a pleasure to do it again. My feeling is that we are ready to have you in Spain whenever you feel it's appropriate. I may take a different position in the sense that instead of waiting until the fall, why not consider spring in Spain? Spain has had a very long pandemic and COVID up to this summer, but the spring of next year promises to be completely in line with what we expect and we hope is the end of this disease. The advantage of spring is the advantage of spring everywhere. That is, you will have very good weather, and you will be able to move outside Madrid and not risk a hot weather. But from Constanza, you know the program. It was a program we had prepared for last year, and that program stands, I hope, I am willing to help in all my strength that program will result in a success. So that's all I want to tell you for the moment. And I wish to hear your opinion before adding anything if necessary to what I have just said.
It's a great idea. It's a great idea, but yesterday we were discussing this opportunity, and you Americans have to say, you think that you can feel comfortable to travel to Europe next spring, because it really depends on it's going to be much easier for a Frenchman to go to Spain in the next spring, but we don't have to cross the Atlantic. So that's why I was thinking of waiting until October of next year. But if the majority of the people here think that we can reasonably hope that we can do it in the spring, then I would follow your recommendation.
Yes, I mean, that to me, sitting in Austria is very easy to say, but I think that is a very good idea to certainly start in Madrid or in Spain in sort of maybe, I don't know, first half of May or in May.
Yeah, I think you'll have better weather with Europe in the end of May and Newport in the fall. You have a better chance to have Newport in the fall is gorgeous. So I'm all for going to Europe. I will go tomorrow morning. I will go this May if I could. So that's.
Well, we're told, Claudia, that you and Deborah have a wedding in
June.
In June. So I think Deborah would, if we were going to do something, she would prefer, and she is the co-chair, so I'm not going to argue with her, but she would prefer that we aim for April.
Yeah.
April-ish, not May-ish.
We also have a son graduating from college in May.
Yeah.
Mid-May, beginning of May, if you forgot. So
But
yes.
I'm gonna get killed after this meeting, but it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think if everyone is in agreement, and I'd love to hear from everyone, the beginning of April, if we think that that's a good time, or mid-April, towards the end, I guess, of April, might be a nice time to be in Spain.
Deborah, yesterday we were talking of April, and we were talking also of the first week of May, which is possible for me, and isn't it possible for you too?
Yes, up until the first week of May, yes.
Okay, so that's what we can do.
The first week of May is better than April. April can be risky from the point of view of weather. The first week of May is much less risky.
Okay, important.
All for the trip in May, early May to Spain next year. We also want to remind the council of the fun we had on Long Island. And if we wanted to have at some point in the next couple of years, a similar visit domestic to the mid-Hudson Valley, we'd like to help organize that. There's a great Vanderbilt house there, of course, and other houses of great interest.
I want to interject here because Denis did point out yesterday something that I think I had forgotten, and that is that the International Council focuses on Newport. And so from Denis' perspective, you all have to return to Newport once in a while. Am I saying that directly, Denis?
No, absolutely. That's, yeah, you're right to say that. First of all, it's very nice from Alvaro to say, no, you go to Spain first. But considering that the trip to Spain was already acted, we just have to choose the moment. But what I said yesterday, Trudy, and you are right, is that I dreamed to come back to Newport. And so we were considering, we have to wait until October 20, we should do something. And then I said, then if we have to do something, please let us take Newport, first of all. And so that's how it came. But now it is an open discussion, and things are on the table. And now you have to say, all of you, what is your preference? Do you want to start with Newport? Do you want to start with Spain? Do you have other ideas? It's your considerations.
I fully subscribe what you say, Denis. I don't want Spain first. I would prefer Newport first, because I haven't been there for some time. So I'm very glad if Spain comes afterwards. But I do think that May is a good moment. Newport before and May afterwards. That is all up to you. And we would be ready to greet you here at any moment that you want to come, as long as you come.
Okay, thank you, Alvaro.
I'm in the Newport in the spring and Spain in the fall camp.
Is Newport in the fall of 2021 out of the question?
Out of the question?
Well, so Terry, I think, this is a bad week for us. So you're hitting me at the worst time you possibly could. Our annual meeting is next week. Terry has a family issue. I have an issue. So you're hitting me at the worst week. Could we, if you weren't expecting an over-the-top visit in October of this year, like 3 or 4 days of planning and travel, and if you could get someone to help me out above and beyond good old Terry and me.
I can help you.
Yeah, thank you, Carol. I think we could pull it off. I really would want, I personally think that if waiting until next April or May, whether it's Newport or Spain, is a long time to go without seeing each other. I think the beauty and value of this group is that you are all friends. And as Johan has said in the past, this is the first group he's ever been a part of where he wasn't spending most of his time avoiding people. So everybody likes each other, but the way you keep your liking alive is to keep seeing each other. So Terry is going to kill me. Just block your ears, Terry. I think we could pull something off as long as it's not expected to be an over the top things you've never done before, buses here, I don't know.
Trudy, if I could just interject, I think we could have a meeting in October here if we follow the format that we've done in Newport in previous years, not the 3 or 4 day trip, but we usually gathered on a Thursday evening, had dinner, and spent all day on Friday for our meeting. And we concluded with a tea or coffee at the end of the day, a reception on Friday. And then it was a day and a half. And we did that several times. And I think people enjoyed that. It wasn't the 3 or 4 day trip. Much easier to plan and execute.
Isn't that a long way to come for people from Europe for just a day and a half, or not?
They could make their trips longer.
Yeah, I think that if we come from Europe, we would like to have something a little bit longer. Yeah.
Bonnie, I think your idea is great for the fall, and I'm more than willing to help Terry pull something together, because it is so beautiful in the fall. And in the spring, Deborah, that I'm sorry, but in the fall it's so pretty, and I think that it would be we could pull it together in a short period of time like that with that kind of the same format. But I do think it's kind of a short period of time, just a day and a half for people to come.
Could you also include Hudson? So have sort of a dual trip, is that realistic at the same time? Newport and Hudson?
Asking about Hudson.
I think that's a lot of planning, Teresa.
Okay.
For such short notice.
That's a lot of time in a bus.
Oh, I forgot.
Newport would be a very timely follow-up to today's discussion if Trudy could give us the third floor of the breakers.
There you go. There you go.
Part of the tour for sure. You're absolutely going to spend a lot of time on the third floor, servants' quarters, attic of the breakers when you're here. Lock you in and let you go.
If I could simply say that with a couple of small organizations I'm involved with, the decision was made to wait till next year for the regular meetings, just to be absolutely safe regarding COVID.
Well, you know, we have a different attitude, Maury. We opened up on the 4th of June, 2021. I guess we're real bullish here because we've been operating and have many months under our belt. But I'm very aware of, we've had an employee who also had a real tough time with COVID. So, I mean, this is all very personal. Some people have more ability on the risk front and others don't. I don't know how to answer this question.
Why don't we give everyone some time to think about what might make sense for them, and maybe everyone can send an email and try to decipher what would work. I think for our colleagues in Europe, I think it's very difficult for them to try to come to the States for this October. As much as we'd like to see each other, I think it might be a little difficult. So perhaps let's poll everyone and see what really works best for everyone. And then we can make a decision from there.
Yeah.
We've thrown out a lot of different options from October to next spring to next October.
Sorry, Deborah, did I understand you well? You think that it is a little risky to organize it this October?
I think we're already into June. I'm sure there are people that have, their calendars already set for this year. I don't know if it's feasible. I know, Denis, you're coming in November to the States, are you not?
Yes.
Yeah, I
come 2 times, Denis, or not?
Pardon?
Would you 2 times or not?
Well, no. What I said yesterday was that I will be in New York from the November 16 until the end of the week. And I had planned that eventually, just because I wanted to see Newport again, I had planned that maybe I could come a little earlier, come on the 12th or 13th of November and spend 2 to 3 days in Newport. But that was a personal objective. Then if you organize something in October, I can also come in October, as long as it is after the 10th of October, after October the 10th.
Yeah.
Trudy, is there anything special planned for December for Christmas in Newport that's really?
We are decorating our houses. We are decorating the outdoors. We haven't got all our houses open yet, so we're kind of taking many of those questions. We've got big plans, but we also are taking a lot of questions day by day
I just think it would be fun to see Newport in a different season. You know, in the beginning of December, just throwing that out. And I love the idea of Madrid in the first week of May, because that's my birthday, and I would love to do it. So I think if there's any way to get a consensus, at least on Madrid out of this meeting, it would be good.
Trudy, are you having the winter ball this year?
Yep, at this point we are, Carol.
And when is that, like December 16th?
I think it's the third week of, I have to look it up. Terry, do you remember by any chance? I think it's December 18th.
Good, then we can celebrate Christmas together. Let's all meet the 24th.
Trudy?
Might be a little late.
Yes, Peter?
Hi, sorry, I have to interrupt. I have to leave, so I'm going to say goodbye to all of you. Thank you very, very much. Good to talk to you, and we'll be in touch. I'm sorry I have to cut this short because I'm going to another meeting. Thank you, and goodbye. Bye-bye.
Peter.
Bye. Bye, Peter.
Denny and Deborah, am I hearing correctly that, and maybe I'm not, but I think I am. Am I hearing correctly that people are interested in doing something in Madrid in April?
Yes.
And that we are still up in the air about October. And if we can pull together something that is good for October, we already know that Denis is going to come, then it sounds like some people will be able to be here. We will do that, and if it just doesn't look like we can make it, then we will have to just wait until April. Is that what I'm hearing?
Alvaro said the first week in May, I think, would be better than April.
Yeah.
Maybe that's true. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yes. Well, the first.
Oh, well, you know, maybe this little discussion so that you have a better time to plan for October. And maybe a little discussion now on what would we expect to do while we are there in November, in October. Because 1.5 days really doesn't work. It definitely doesn't make it worth traveling from Europe for that. But what else do we want to do? You know, we want to visit houses. You know, we want, you know, of course, visiting on the third floor would be a must. But anything else we would like to see? You know, what is other things that you have done since the last time, and maybe we can look at, or other things you want to discuss. You know, so instead of just a long day of meeting and cocktail, maybe we left little meetings, and then we spend the afternoon of 2 days doing other things. You know,
right.
I think it's, you know, if anybody has particular curiosity, maybe that will help. And maybe we're not ready to do that now. Maybe we'll send out a little survey at the end of this meeting to everybody. So, you know, you can see the different interests from everybody and then see if it's worth and practical to organize something for this October.
That's a good idea. Alvaro, is it likely that you would come in October?
It is very possible.
Okay, and then what about you, Johan? Wherever you are, you and Constanza, might you or might you not?
Sorry, I won't come this October, and I don't think Constanza can come either. We have a trip to Spain, actually, bring a group of people a week in October.
Okay.
And I don't think we can be away so much more from Sweden.
Yeah.
Trudy,
what about Sir Hugh?
Trudy, can I just interrupt? I'm terribly sorry, but I've got another appointment which I must now go to. So I'm going to have to say goodbye.
All right. Well, it's been a joy to see you. And I look at your books, you know, this is the man who's the expert on Queen Elizabeth and all of her objects and all of her jewelry and everything. And your books are right there on the wall.
Well, you're very flattering. Anyway, I must say goodbye and forgive me for leaving, but it's
Goodbye.
a very good meeting.
Bye.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you for attending.
Bye.
So what I think we'll
I
do,
think you have to circulate an email.
Yes.
There just seems to be too much diversion of
Yes.
okay,
What-
people's schedules.
Would you, perhaps we can talk offline, you and myself and Denis and Terry, and try to rehash this out and come to some kind of consensus, and then we can send out an email to everyone asking them what works best for them.
that
I
sounds,
think we're kind of really pushing a lot of things on to everyone in a very short period of time, so,
yeah, I agree.
okay,
Need to wrap up.
yes.
Do you all want to stay for a moment more, Denis and Deborah and Terry, or do you want to set up another time?
Let's set up another time.
Okay, let's get a little distance, think about it.
Yes, yes.
Okay, well, thank
Okay.
you all. You are so wonderful. It's great.
Thank you.
to see you. Thank you.
Thank you all. It was wonderful to see you.
Thank you.
Good to see you all.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.